you ever known a guy who got stronger after life completely broke him? He doesn't talk much about the hard parts, but watch how he carries himself. The way he sits, the pause before he speaks, and you know he's been through places most guys never visited. He's 54, just started at the gym, hasn't trained consistently since his 30s. 6 months later, he's not only physically tougher, he's sharper, calmer, harder to rattle, and more solid in himself than most guys half his age. He's not trying to prove anything. That didn't happen by chance. It didn't come from a smoother early life. Most people assume guys like him just had an easier start. They're wrong. The men who become truly strong later, better leaders, steadier under pressure, less reliant on outside approval, are almost always the ones who went through more, not less. One moved into a camper van at 52. Just him, the road, and his thoughts. 4 years later, he said it was the first time in his adult life he felt like himself. Another got sober in 2008 after losing almost everything. He spent years wondering if anyone would ever really know the real him. He's still building, and he'll tell you the hard years were the real foundation. More men go through this than anyone talks about. Something quietly shifts inside certain men as they age, slowly, then all at once. When it finally lands, it builds something the younger version of them never could have created. That's what this video is about. Not a pep talk. The actual psychology of why some men get stronger later, and why the hard years were never wasted. But here's the part most people miss. The hard years weren't just suffering. They were the quiet training ground that prepared the man he became. They forged the inner strength, the unshakable calm, and the deep self-knowledge that let him show up later as a version of himself he never thought possible. Without those years, the foundation would have been too soft, too fragile. The pain wasn't wasted. It was the real work. Think about the man who spent his 30s in a job that never fit. He could see exactly what was wrong, and still couldn't explain why he stayed. He'd sit in meetings with cold coffee, feeling this low-level wrongness, like wearing shoes one size too small. You can walk and run in them, but your feet always know. He changed jobs. People called it instability. He called it refusing to pretend. Or the man who spent his 40s being everyone's rock, always saying yes, believing his value came from what he did for others. He got taken advantage of by people who counted on him never saying no. One guy put it plainly, "My biggest mistake has been my kindness. I have been taken advantage of for years by many." When you believe your value comes from what you do for people, saying no feels like betrayal. You keep paying until something forces you to question it. Carl Jung called the first half of life the time when you learn to wear the mask the world hands you. Most men get rewarded, but some never quite manage it, because the mask was never theirs. The resistance wasn't weakness, it was protection. If he had settled at 28, he might still be there. A man at 38 is driving home at 6:45 p.m. with 23 unread messages. He agreed to 3 things he didn't want, because saying no felt too complicated. He's good at his job, but quietly miserable, and he's assumed those 2 things have nothing to do with each other. They have everything to do with each other. Spend years being who you're supposed to be, instead of who you actually are, and the body notices. Fatigue that won't lift, sleep that doesn't help, ambitions buried, anger swallowed. That energy didn't disappear. It went underground, and it's still there. What looks like a man standing still is often a man under pressure, building without knowing it. And maybe that's where you are right now. Past 40 or 50, watching this and thinking, nothing's changed for me. Still tired, still stuck. Stay with me. That stuck feeling isn't proof you're too late. It's usually what comes right before. No man turns this around on a good year. He turns it around after the worst one. Every man you've seen who can't be shaken was once right where you are. That numbness isn't the end. It's the pressure building before things finally move. Then something shifts, usually around 50. Sometimes it's a health scare. Sitting in the exam room, thinking, I've been treating this body like it's someone else's problem. Sometimes it's his daughter's wedding, feeling underneath the pride how much he put on hold. Or it comes as a year that almost breaks you, the kind where getting out of bed needs a reason. Men who made it through say the same thing. I didn't think I was going to survive that year, but I did, and I wasn't the same after. Carl Jung called it the dark night before the turn. The old version stops working, the new one hasn't shown up yet. You're just in the middle. The man who stays in that middle, who doesn't run, comes out with something most guys in their 20s haven't even thought about yet. Getting older alone doesn't make you stronger. Pain alone doesn't make you stronger. What changes a man is what he does with it. Most people keep moving and never sit with it. That's why nothing changes. So what does it actually look like when it works? He starts going to the gym, not to impress anyone. At 28, he went because he was supposed to. Now he goes because he's curious what this body can still do. He calls an old friend, the one he lost touch with in his 40s. Instead of waiting for the right moment, he just calls. He starts saying no. Just, I'm not going to do that. And he's surprised by how little the world ends. He cares less about whether people agree with him and more about whether he's being honest. For most of his life, those two things felt the same. They don't anymore. The younger guys around him see someone doing well. They don't see what it took. He's been fired. He knows it doesn't kill you. Had his heart broken. Not the 23-year-old kind, but the kind at 41, where you start over from nothing. Lost a parent. He knows what actually matters now. One guy put it straight. Every win came late. Career, money, self-respect, all of it. But when it came, I went further than I ever expected. Retired at 47. That's the story. Not luck, not an easier start. Just a man who finally stopped wearing the mask the world handed him and started living in his own skin. And when he does, something stronger quietly shows up. If this hit home, drop a comment with the hardest season you're going through right now. I read every one. Let's lift each other up.